10 years in, I was like, man, there's got to be more to this. Like 10 years, I'm coming in on Saturdays. I see my boss coming in on Sundays. And so I'm like, that's going to be me working 7 days a week. So I just Googled how to quit my job and get rich. And
I love it.
literally, like so many people popped up that owned real estate. I was like, how the heck?
This is the Better Life Podcast, where we talk about real estate investing, building wealth, and all in all, living a better life. My name is Brandon Turner, and I've spent my life investing in real estate to achieve financial freedom. And alongside my co-host, Mr. Cam Cathcart, we want to help you do the same. On the show, you're going to hear from world-class guests who have been handpicked to help you level up your investing, your leadership, your goals, your habits, and more to become the very best version of yourself. So join us as we explore the habits, the actions, the beliefs that it takes to build wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul. This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and
Cam Cathcart.
Hey Cam, what do you call an illegally parked frog?
A toad.
A toad.
Is it?
It is. Right? You're gonna tow it because it's illegally parked, right?
I just was trying.
I
got that one right.
Yeah, you tried
10
hard.
points for me.
Yeah, you tried hard to not laugh at that one, and you still laughed.
That was good.
Yeah. All right. Hey, everyone. What's up? It's Brandon Turner and Cam Cathcart here with another episode of the Better Life Podcast. Today with a good friend of ours who lives here on Maui, invests all over the country with different types of real estate, Zasha Smith. You're going to love this episode. We cover a ton of stuff from how to quit your job and be rich, which is like the theme of this one, and you'll see what I mean by that. We talk about how to do lending, like how to raise money from people that you can then lend out, or just raise money from people online, on the internet, through social media for your own deals. We talk a lot about Instagram, how to grow your social media to be able to raise more capital. We talk about partnerships and how to find good people to partner with online, and how to take action. And we tell a story at the very end of the podcast about when Zasha stole a deal from me. And you'll see what I mean by that. More coming. But first, let's hear from today's show sponsor. This episode is brought to you by our friends at TurboTenant and Ballpoint Marketing. These two companies are big supporters of the show, and they know how to work with real estate investors and help real estate investors grow their businesses. So be sure to stay tuned to hear how you can get discounts and free stuff from them both. And as you probably know, all the profits from the show go to charities of the guest choosing. So when you listen to the sponsors on the show and you work with these hand-chosen by me sponsors, you're actually doing good for the world. Now let's get to the show. Zasha Smith, welcome to the podcast.
Aloha.
So we've known each other a little while now. I know you as a real estate investor here on Maui, and you invest on the mainland. I know you are incredible at both teaching real estate and doing real estate. I know you are good at stealing deals from people sitting across the table from you. And maybe we'll tell the story.
I want to hear that story.
She didn't steal it. She fair and square. And I know you as a family person. I know you as an entrepreneur. I know you as you do lending now, you do building, you do all sorts of stuff. But take us back before all of that. Who was Zasha?
A young girl living on an island, little dreams, just thinking about the day ahead.
Okay. All right. End of show.
Simple life. A simple life.
All right. Were you born and raised here?
Yeah. And so I was raised by a single mom. There was 3 of us, and we lived in low-income housing. It was very difficult growing up here in an expensive market.
I bet.
But we always were happy. I mean, we live on an island. There's a beach. I paddled canoe. We did our best, but it really drove me after I graduated high school to go to college, because I was like, man, I got to get off this rock. I got to do something different with my life. And that's how I ended up in Long Beach, became an engineer. But I also had my first daughter while I was going to college. So that was a challenge, but ended up moving home because there's nowhere like Maui.
It's the most beautiful place in the world.
So engineer, what kind of engineer were you?
I did civil engineering because when I was working at the college, I started off as a counselor, just part-time to be able to pay my bills. I was working in a college of engineering, and then I was helping the engineers with their homework, and my boss was a woman engineer, and she was like, we need more women. So I was like, oh, I'm not that smart. But I took a few classes, and I was like, oh, this is actually doable. And what I learned about myself was that I like, things that are definite answers, like 1 + 1 is 2. I majored in psychology before that. And it was like, is the sky blue? Is
Yeah.
it red? Is it green? I'm like, I think it's blue, but I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you decided, what does a civil
Mhm.
engineer even do? Like, I don't know the differences.
Right. So we design underground utilities,
Okay.
do grading for lots, so deal with raw land and the basis of a building before you actually get to the building itself.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought there was who does bridges? Is that civil engineers also do bridges?
Structural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was way off. Slippy, slappy, Samsonite. I was way off. If you can tell me what movie that's from, I'll be really impressed.
Slippy, slappy, Samson.
Samsonite. You were way off. I saw it on a t-shirt the other day too. It made me smile. Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So engineer, where did the idea of real estate even come from?
Because I was involved in so many big projects here, so I did projects all across Hawaii. So hotel remodels, subdivisions, even commercial real estate here. But those are, billion-dollar projects
Yeah.
that we were helping to design. So I ended up just one day, literally just Googling while I was at work. 10 years in, I was like, man, there's got to be more to this. Like 10 years. I'm coming in on Saturdays. I see my boss coming in on Sundays.
Mm.
And so I'm like, that's going to be me working 7 days a week. So I just Googled how to quit my job and get rich. And
I love it.
literally, like so many people popped up that owned real estate. I was like, how the heck? It was so hard for us to be able to qualify to buy our home. And, even the thought of owning another property was way out of bounds. We thought we made it already. But
Yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
we have a house
Yeah,
on
we
Maui.
got a house on Maui. Yeah.
So from there, it just took a life on its own and
Yeah.
started listening to Bigger Pockets, researching real estate, and just trying to figure out how to make it work in Hawaii.
Yeah. That's so funny. I want to write a blog post now called How to Quit My Job and Get Rich. And, so, because I bet you people search for that kind of stuff all the
Right.
time.
It's
like,
simple.
Yeah, it's simple. It's like,
Yeah.
that's actually what people want is, I want to
Mhm.
quit my job. I want to get rich. And we're going to make the title of this episode, How to Quit Your Job.
My
Yeah,
Job
we're
and Get
totally
Rich.
going to make that title of the episode, How to Quit Your Job and Get Rich.
So
I
how
love
did
that.
you get rich?
Yeah. So yeah.
What was the next step?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go with the first deal question brought to you by firstdeal.com. The first deal question. How'd you get your first deal? Walk us through it.
I ended up calling everybody I knew who knew something about real estate. And so my uncle was a realtor and he was also a firefighter and also coached football. I mean, if you live on Maui, you do multiple things. But he ended up buying his house at a foreclosure auction. So I was like, okay, how does that work? Like, I want to get into this thing. So he's like, man, you just read the newspaper, you look for ads in there about foreclosures happening, and you just show up at the courthouse. I'm like, no, really? You just go to a courthouse and they auction off homes, like $1 million homes? And he's like, well, not all of them are that much. But anyway, I started going to the foreclosure auctions. And when I went, I was like, fresh into it and nobody would talk to me. Like there was like older people there, different races, and they were just like, okay, who is this? I'm like, hey, do I stand over here? Is this where we put our numbers up? And they're like, oh, she's going to be here for a short time. But I kept showing up. So probably about my 10th or 11th auction I went to, they finally opened up and I was like, okay, this girl's going to keep showing up. And so I bid on a property. I had done my due diligence. And over here, they have open houses for some of the foreclosures.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I went to a few of them, talked to the attorneys. I'm like, hey, how do I navigate this? They're like, oh, we can't advise you, but sometimes the timeline is long enough for you to get a loan on it. I was like, okay. Because I thought you had to have it all up front here. Because that's how a lot of auctions
Yeah, a
are.
lot of them are that
Yeah.
way.
So,
Right.
so you could get a loan on it because you do title work and everything beforehand?
Yes. So you can pull like a title report. Like it usually shows up in the newspaper beforehand. And that's how Hawaii works. That you got to check in your own state or county how it goes down. But after I found out that, I started going to the auctions, bid on that property, bought it for, I believe, around $312. And we closed on it, I think within 30 days. I used a conventional loan, which I'm not advising anybody to do because you're not supposed to do that. But used the conventional loan, qualified. They let an appraiser walk through. The attorney was really nice with me and put about $30,000 into it. And that was me working with people like uncles, cousins, whoever could like cut me a deal. I was going to Lowe's on my lunch break, after work, going to check on the project, just bringing the boys whatever they needed. And we did the remodel as a condo, 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath in Keonikai Villages. And we did it in about 30 days. We listed it on the market. It sold in 15 days to a cash buyer, and we netted $103,000.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Over $100,000 in profit your first deal.
Yeah. We sold it for $485, so minus all the costs.
That's legit.
That's incredible.
So I made $103,000 on that deal, my first deal, in 45 days, and I was only making about $70,000 a year as a civil engineer in charge of these multi-million-dollar projects.
What's your husband's name?
Woody.
Woody. I like him a lot, by the way. Do you, what did he say to this? Was he like, you're crazy? Or was he supporting? Was he working with you on it? Or was he just shocked that you just made more money than you had at your job?
Right. Well, initially he was like, man, I don't know. This seems risky. You sure about this?
Yeah.
And so I just had to be confident in what I was doing. And I think in any relationship, you're always going to be, if you haven't done it before, your partner may be a little concerned. But yeah, after I made $100,000, he was like, let's do it again.
Right? Yes. Yeah, I think there's sometimes a danger I've noticed with some investors, and I don't see it with you, where some investors, their first deal, they'll get lucky on it and they'll make a bunch of money, like 50 grand or 100 grand. For example, I got a buddy who bought a house, fixed it up, everything went wrong, paid way too much for the house, took him 1.5 years, almost 2 years to remodel it, made 100 grand because he waited 2 years, right? And so he's like, man, I'm a genius. I'm like, no, you just got lucky. And so then those people never can live up to that. And they never do any more deals a lot of times because it was almost beginner's luck. But with you, you put in the work, you did the research, you didn't buy the first deal you found, you went and you did the work, and therefore it wasn't luck, you earned it. Yeah, that first, it's like the beginner's luck thing can be, I think, hard on people.
It's good for people to have really bad first deals.
Yeah.
Because one, they figure out systems, they learn so much in that first deal. And I'm sure you've learned a ton. But even for us in our company, we started in 2020 and it's been so easy to do what we've done comparatively to even the last 6 months. And I never had to really grow a ton as a investor because you could buy a house and just sell it for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more than you bought it for 6 months later because the market would just do it for you.
The market just been.
So I did think I was a genius for a couple of years, but now I'm excited because now we get to learn processes and systems and what it means to be a leader and growing a business the right way versus, hey, we're just getting lucky. And so I think it's good to struggle on your first couple of deals because you learn just so much in those first couple of deals.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So what came next?
So next, I definitely knew I wanted to do it again, and I wanted to quit my job. So I ended up joining a coaching program, Ryan Pineda, a wealthy investor, and I was one of his first students. So he just started his program. There was only 8 of us. His first mastermind was in his living room.
No way.
Yeah, ground up girl.
That's cool.
So that kind of gave me the confidence because I didn't know anybody locally doing it, and that was sharing their strategies because Hawaii is such a limited market. So once I seen him doing it to scale, I was like, oh, I can do this. And I had those doubts in my head, what if I just got lucky on this first deal? What if it never happens again and I quit my job and I just threw everything away? But I think because I already had even more deals in my pocket, looking at them, I was like, okay, just needed this proof of concept and I could run with it. But I didn't have the systems and processes in place. I was kind of hiring whoever to get it done and just get through the process. But at the end of the day, I already knew, okay, if I want to really make this a business, I have to get coaching. I have to get these processes in place so that I don't fail.
Yeah. Do you advise people today, or if somebody's talking to you and they say, hey, I'm thinking about flipping condos, do you suggest that today? Do you stay away from that? Do you think people should do that? What's your thoughts on flipping condos?
I would say it depends on what market you're in.
Okay.
So for Hawaii, some things to watch out for are the HOA fees.
Yeah.
They're increasing probably almost every single year.
Yep.
So even if you get a flip, and are able to maybe turn it in a month or 2 months, there might be a special assessment that comes up that you may have to pay or before you sell it. Also, the insurance has gone up 70% on most condos, and that is for the HOA and also your own personal homeowner's insurance.
Really?
So that's something that I'm dealing with now with 5 of my condo rentals is that the insurance is increasing a lot. And so just being aware of that when you go to try to sell it, it may be an extra cost that you're not considering.
Yeah. Yeah. Condos are interesting to me because like on one hand, they're easier to get into price-wise usually in a market, but they tend to swing pretty heavily. Like we saw it real bad, obviously in Florida back in 2008, 9, 10. But in general, like condos tend to swing really, really badly. And so if you get caught in the wrong part of a market cycle, you can be hurt really bad. Or places like Hawaii, where all of a sudden now there's potential of them taking a third of the condos off from Airbnb, put some law changes. All of a sudden, like people are trying to dump their condos real quick right now, and it's driving prices down. There's risk there for sure. But you can also, one thing I love about condos is that you can generally get a really good ARV. Like it's like, well, there's 19 more sold in the last year in this complex, so we can get a real accurate number. So again, pros and cons, but I flipped a couple condos in my life and done really, really well on them. But again, it was during times where the market just really helped me quite a bit. Like we made 150 grand on a condo flip once. Yeah, on a condo. But here's the funny thing. We made 150 grand. It was Greg and I did it together. It was a great flip. I can't remember. I'm going to probably butcher these numbers, but it was basically about like 350, sold it for maybe like 550. It's worth $1 million today, like 3 years later. And I'm like, dang it, I should have kept that thing. Like I would have made so much more money by keeping that. And it was across the street from the Cove, and it was in a great area. Had a view of the ocean, like had everything. And I'm like, I regret every property I ever sold. It's generally the rule for investors. So.
Yeah, I've had some buddies that have lost a ton of money on condos because you always have to check the HOA.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I see all of the time, because we buy a lot of houses and look at a lot of condos, is they have rules about who can rehab your house, who can. And so like for us, we can do a rehab relatively cheap because we do so many, but then certain condos, you can only use their approved contractors to rehab it. So I had a buddy who bought a house or a condo, and he had his rehab budget at 50. And then the approved contractor, the licensed contractors that this HOA approved were all double or triple what his rehab budget was. And so lost a ton of money just because of that, just that one thing. But I think condos are tricky because of the HOA. They can do whatever they want, essentially.
Yeah, I hate the lack of control you have at an HOA.
Yeah.
But what about rentals? You obviously have some condo rentals. So let's get the rest of your story. I mean, what came next? How'd you get rich and quit your job?
So, I mean, I quit my job the next month after I joined the mentorship, made that 100 grand. I was like, you know what? Even if I just do one a year, like I'm already making more than I did at my job. So I started, joined the mentorship, and that was during the era of the beginning of kind of Instagram. I feel like started getting more popular after 2020. I don't know if it's because of everyone staying home and posting more, but Ryan had told me, man, like you live in Hawaii and you're a woman, and you could build your own personal brand. And so I didn't realize the value of that and where it could take me. And now knowing, looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have started earlier. But it has allowed me to partner on over 36 flips, partner on RV parks, office buildings, get into commercial real estate just because of the audience that I've had, the connections that I've made, and even just like simply answering DMs from people who are like, hey, I have this cool project that I'm working on, and I've never worked on $1 million projects, but I have all these Airbnbs and I've done all this stuff, but I know you have, would you sign on the loan for me, or would you take a look at this project? And so I think just building your network that way online, and because I live on an island, I'm not always going to in-person stuff, that really catapulted me to be able to scale to where I'm at today.
Do you know something about your Instagram? Because this was before I knew you. This was like 2020, 2021. And I was following all of the big real estate investors. And something that you did, and that was, I thought, phenomenal, because I saw it everywhere, was you commented on everybody's posts. But it was also like a thoughtful comment. It wasn't just like fire,
Was that Russell Brunson's strategy from Traffic Secrets?
No, I never took that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
one of his strategies. You pick your top 100 people that you want to follow, and you comment on every single thing that they do. So I always wondered if you just read that book, and because you perfectly executed it in a
But I
great
think
way.
the key to your comments were they were actual, like you
Real,
could,
yeah.
Related,
you watched,
yeah.
Yes.
you watched the video, and then instead of just putting like the 100 or fire emoji or whatever,
Which a lot of people do. Thumbs
exactly,
up. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
you would actually like
say something.
say
And you still
something.
do. You still comment on my
Yeah.
stuff all the time. I'm always like,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, the goal with that is to try to add value and then also like get in front of their audience.
Yep.
So, and then also just to create that relationship, because I think you, even when I started reaching out to you and vice versa, it's like we're both focused on that. And you wouldn't think on a platform so big that the actual person running the account would be answering the DMs or even checking them. You think their team would.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised on how many individuals were running their account and
people
checking
who
it.
even people who have social media teams. Like I have a social media team. I have a couple people that help me with it, and I still check the DMs every single day.
I know.
Almost every DM I still see.
Yeah.
Because I'm just curious, and I don't want my team to miss something. I saw one the other day, a guy DM'd in and just was like, and my team did miss it. It was like from 3 days ago, and it was like, hey, I got this property. I'm thinking about selling it. We lived in it a couple of years. I've got about $1 million of equity in it. I'm not really sure what to do with the money. I'm thinking about just keeping it as a rental though, if I don't sell it, but it's not going to cash flow. And I'm like, that's the conversation I need to have with this guy. Like whether you invest in open door capital or not, that's somebody I want to talk with and try to help, because like, I want to help everybody, but like somebody who's got $1 million, like, yeah, let's have a conversation. How can I help you? How can we work together? Is there something we can do? And I don't want to miss those. And so, yeah. Okay. I want to go a little bit more into the social media, kind of what you've done to grow that and how you've done it to raise money and find partnerships and all that. Before we do, I want to get to this week's show sponsor. Now, one thing on the show we do is 100% of the profits from the show go directly to charities of the guests' choosing. So where are we sending the money from today's show?
To Bayada Health Home Care.
Okay.
So they actually provide services for my son who has autism. And so it's very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. Are they like a Maui-based?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their center is in Kahalui. And then they also send aides to his school.
Wow.
So they go out to like the park with him and just teach him some social skills.
Yeah.
So very, very appreciative for all their services.
All right. Well, that's where we'll send the money. So appreciate that. All right, so picture this. I just signed a lease with a tenant. They seemed great on paper. Then a few months in, everything kind of started going sideways. Suddenly, they're missing rent deadlines. There's a broken window. The neighbors are complaining about them. I realized I put someone in my rental property without properly screening them, and now I was living a landlord's nightmare. But lucky for you, you don't have to make the same mistakes as I made early on, because you have the luxury of using TurboTenant. So if you're managing any rental properties right now, and you're still trying to vet tenants and collect rent and keep track of work orders and market all your vacancies, look, TurboTenant is going to be your best friend. It's an app that allows you to do all of that and so much more, all in the same platform. Plus, it's like stupid cheap, like seriously less than your Netflix subscription. I don't even know why it's so cheap. And if you want it even cheaper, I got a discount for you. Just go to turbotenant.com/betterlife and use code Brandon10 for 10% off. Or go to my Instagram and DM me the word toolbox, and I'll send you a link to a bunch of cool free tools that they have, like the rent estimator, financial freedom calculator, and more. Hey, so many of you have heard me tell that story about how I bought my daughter Rosie a fourplex, like a rental property, the week she was born, and how we put it on an 18-year, mortgage payoff plan so it'll be paid off when she graduates from high school. So essentially, my tenants are paying for Rosie's entire college. Now that's pretty awesome, right? Not to mention, it's also making almost like $1,000 a month in cash flow. That's double awesome. But I don't think I've ever shared really exactly how I found that deal. So here goes. I found it through direct mail marketing. And here's how. I simply built a high quality lead list of a lot of names and addresses of potential sellers, and I sent out a whole bunch of mail to every person on that list. And then I talked on the phone to a ton of people, and then I finally got one person that was interested enough to sell me the property, and I got a deal at a great price. So building that giant lead engine like that, I mean, it works, but it takes a ton of time, knowledge, and effort, which can really slow down an investor's growth, which is why I reached out to my friend Ryan with Ballpoint Marketing. I asked him to sponsor this show because they're the best at doing everything that I just talked about. Like, they're literally going to help you build your entire lead engine. You're going to get a one-on-one call where they're going to help you figure out what you want and then build your lead list for you. Their robots are going to handwrite the postcards with a real pen, which is super cool. They're going to send them out, and they'll even answer the phone calls for you. Plus, they'll help you track it all inside of a CRM that they create for you. I know, it's crazy, crazy awesome. And it's going to help you land way more deals consistently. And because you're awesome and because you listen to this show, you're going to get a discount when you tell them that I sent you, or just use code Brandon when checking out with them. I love Ballpoint Marketing and officially recommend them to all my friends and masterminds. So if you're ready to kick your deal flow up a notch, getting more quality leads without pulling your hair out, just go to ballpointmarketing.com/betterlife. Or just shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word ballpoint, like one word, ballpoint, and I'll hook you up with them directly. All right, let's talk about social media and how a real estate investor can use it. So what has been the secret to your success?
So there is kind of like a 4-step process that I call DMs to dollars.
Okay.
That
I love it.
I know has a good ring.
It does.
So first is for you to create a personal brand, like I've talked about before, stand out in some sort of way. So I wear these kind of colors and the flower, of course, I've always worn one, but you just want to figure out a way to stand out to people, especially on your profile. You want them to go there and know exactly what you do. You do real estate. Okay, make sure that's in your bio. Make sure that is a part of your name in some sort of capacity. The next thing you want to do is to educate your audience. So that's posting valuable content that is around what you're trying to do. So I often post about real estate investing. Like I used to post a lot of fix and flips. More so now I post about my lifestyle and lending, because what I've found is a lot of people want to know kind of what you do before they invest your money with you. It's the know, like, and trust thing, right? The third step I would say would be to engage with your audience. So do Instagram lives, like post a lot in your story about what you're doing throughout the day, what your values are. I find that that resonates with a lot of people, especially when I share about coming from low-income housing. They're like, man, I grew up with no money and now I have a lot of money. And a lot of, millionaires are self-made. So you connect with those people and then responding in the DMs so they feel heard. And the fourth is some sort of call to action. So in every single post I do, even though sometimes it's a lot to consistently do it, is you saying like, hey, if you want to know more, DM me the word lend, or in your caption, put something along that sort. And so for me, if I'm saying something or teaching something about lending or saying why it's a way that they can pursue real estate where they don't have to be so active, then I'll say, hey, if you want to know more, DM me the word lend. And you'd be surprised that people were like, man, I wanted to reach out to you for so many times, but I just didn't know what to say. So when you give them a word or some kind of action, and then it's a ManyChat thing, you can have automations go along with that too to vet people.
So am I correct in assuming that, so your Instagram, like lend, that idea, you're teaching people they can lend money and get a return. That then benefits you because they might lend you money, or people that you're partnered with. That's genius.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've never thought of that in my entire life. I'm not kidding. I've never thought that should be.
Do that right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go start posting. No, it's like genius because it is true. It's a win-win. Like they do get a higher return. In fact, you can make more lending than you can off doing your own deals. Like my lenders always make more money than I do. And so like, yeah, if you got money, you probably shouldn't be out there trying to flip houses. If you got a good career making a ton of money, just lend your money to somebody else who can actually go put it to work.
Yeah.
That's smart.
How many hours a week would you say, like when you were building, because you grew your Instagram faster than almost anybody I know. Like how many hours did you put into it?
Probably 6 or 7 hours a day. It was a lot.
Okay.
So I try to do a couple hours. It makes me feel better.
Well, yeah, I don't put anywhere near that in,
Right.
but my Instagram sucks.
Right.
When you said lives, I went live once and there was 7 people that showed up and I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm never doing that again. Never doing that again.
7 people though, that's awesome. Like imagine you had 7 people in a room, you'd be like, this is amazing.
That's actually a great point. I've never thought of it that way. But
I heard that the other day somebody said,
so defeating.
If you have 1,000 followers, it feels really small. But imagine being in a room of 1,000 people you're teaching. Like that's massive. You're on stage in front of 1,000 people. That's huge. And so it's just perspective. We just compare it to the person who has 1 million. Like it's like, oh man, that must be really nice to have 1 million followers. Or you have 10 million. Oh, like it's all just comparison. But you're still like, that's a lot of people.
And I think the more consistent you are, that's the thing with the Instagram or any kind of social platform, even the internet. The more consistent you are, the more it'll show to more people. So it's like all has to do with the algorithm. So because I post every single day, because I'm commenting and I'm consistently on the app, I think it rewards you for pushing you in front of more people.
Do you still respond yourself to all of your DMs and to comments and everything?
The ones that aren't like kind of automated. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, well, they'll let me know because I do have a team as well, but they'll let me know like, hey, this person was asking this specific question. They're not real estate professionals, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't know what to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
So
Do you when it comes to building a team, do you hire like virtual assistants out of the country? Are you just friends that you know around here? Like, what's kind of your process for that? And before you answer that, Matt Francois is going to walk through the room. What's up, Matt?
Oh, Matt.
This is Matt. He runs the 50. Everyone can kind of see him real quick here as he
Got
walks
done
by.
playing
What's
basketball.
up?
Sweaty from working
Oh,
out.
were you doing basketball?
Yeah.
Did you lose? Did you win?
No, we won.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
All right. Let's keep going. All right. So what was my question? I already forgot it.
I
What did I just ask you? I don't remember.
as you're thinking about it,
Okay,
I
you
just
go.
found out like 3 months ago, this is so bad, that I couldn't see people that I didn't follow back their DMs. Like there's a second tab on the DMs on Instagram that
Yeah.
you click.
Yeah. You don't know.
And then
Yeah,
no, and then you
primary
scroll,
and
but
general.
then
Yeah,
you
primary
scroll
and general.
down and then there's like a hidden
Yeah,
tab
hidden.
too.
Yeah. And you go in
And
that
I didn't
one.
know that there was a
Yeah,
hidden.
there's like 3 things in Instagram
Yeah.
to look for.
So I knew the second tab. I didn't know that there was a
Oh, yeah.
hidden, which
Yeah.
it hides a lot of stuff that I don't want to see. That's
Right.
pretty terrible. But then there's also a lot of normal people that comment in there, and for some reason it hides it too. So
All right. So before the rude break from Matt
Friggin' Matt.
Francois, who runs the 50, the whatisthefifty.com, I was asking you about where do you get your team from? Is it virtual assistants overseas, that kind of stuff? Like, what's that look like?
So for my social media team, they are here,
Okay.
and I oversee them and what they write because I still want it to be personalized to
Agreed,
me.
yeah.
And so I'll still go in like you do every single day and just kind of check it, just
Yep.
kind of see, post it out, see what they're saying and what people are saying in the DMs.
Yep.
But majority of the time, because I have some automation set up, if they DM me the word lend, they'll go through an automation. It'll pre-qualify them. And then if they, have 50,000 or more, it'll set up a call
Yeah.
with me. And then if not, then I'll, give them some other resources that they can have.
Can you explain for those who don't, because that's our world of ManyChat. It's like our world, and I love it. It's one of the most powerful powerful marketing tools on the planet. But for those who have never heard of the word ManyChat, like what is that, and how does somebody use that?
So it's basically a program that will, once someone sends you a message or comments on one of your posts or your reels, it'll then send them an automated message back. And usually it's just to start the conversation and then you can pick it up from there. But that's just in case if you do have a bigger account and say one of your reels goes viral, right? And then now you have thousands of messages that you can't get to. This helps you just stay on top of it and then get back to people who are wanting something maybe that would pertain to the post. So a lot of it, like I said, is lend, invest. I also do, I'm trying to think of other ones, Hui, which is our mastermind. So if they want more information about our coaching program, just helps me to filter through them and then get them the resources way faster.
Yeah. It's incredible. We use it for, we use it for everything. Every podcast has a code. Like people can type in, like episode, whatever number, you can type that into any post on Instagram. It'll automatically send you it. But what I really am enjoying about it is things like I can give away free content. For example, I have a book. I'm a big reader, right? I read a lot of real estate books and business books. I put together my top 100 favorite, I think I call it Brandon Turner's 100 books to make you, something like Brandon Turner presents 100 books to make you happy, healthy, wealthy, and free, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like books to make you rich. I don't know. It has a name we're testing. And it's basically like a 100-page ebook that I made with each page is one book and what I liked about it and why it impacted me. It took me a few hours to make that book and to put it all together. And now if somebody just types in the word, I think it's book or books into anywhere on Instagram, it'll send them that book. But before it does, it asks them, hey, I'm going to send you the book right now. Can you give me your email address? I'll send it right to you, right? Now I get their email address. I also then say, hey, just out of curiosity for my records, are you new to real estate or are you an investor? And everyone's like, yeah, new or investor. So now what do I know? I know their email address. I now know if they're new to real estate or an investor. Now I can say, hey, if you're an investor, what are you trying to do? And I can automate all that. And now I get really detailed segmentation on how I can serve people. If they are like, I have this much money or I'm looking for this thing, I can be like, oh yeah, here's Open Door Capital. Here's First Deal. Here's Better Life. Here's a 50. Here's a Zasha. Like whatever they need, I can now serve them better at a volume that actually helps people. Anyway, ManyChats.
So you can automate all of that.
A lot of it, yeah.
I've
You
done
do all of it, yeah.
One ManyChat, and it was the word deal.
Yeah.
But then I get people that are sending me deals all the time. And they're like, hey, I got
Here,
this
deal,
deal.
and
And
automatically,
then I
yeah.
send them a VSL
I know,
for something else. And I haven't figured it out yet.
So I've done,
Yep.
I recently started doing Invest 24 just because it's the year 2024.
Yeah, stuff like that's
So
nice.
you
When you
can
put a
just,
little
Deal
you add a
24.
number or
Yes.
something
Okay.
to it.
The other day, I had some guy reached out to me. Actually, it was the same story. The guy who said he's got $1 million equity in his house, but he wrote me this DM, and then I look at it, and I had auto responded with that. Here's that spreadsheet you wanted with the rent to price ratios across every county in America, which is one of the free things we give away, is a rent to price ratio of every county in America. And I was like, I'm looking at his thing, and I'm like, he didn't ask for that. Like, there's no word in here that I could imagine being a ManyChat word. Why did it send it to him? So I've had to check with my team. And it was random. It was a number, 6,800, because there's 6,800 numbers in this record. So at some point, 6 months ago, we said, just comment the word 6,800. And he happened to use that number in somewhere in the post was like, yeah, there's 6,800, a month in rent I could get. Anyway, just, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
absurd.
the automations do happen like that. But I think, especially if you run a bigger account, they're just like, okay,
it's game changer. Yeah. And they're like, well, yeah. Nobody, he didn't even comment on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a cool tool. And so investors, how can a real estate investor use it would be, doing exactly that. Give away free content, potentially, or hey, if you want more information, just comment this word. And I like it, whatever I see it. Like I saw one today when I was scrolling Instagram that was like talking about mouth breathing for kids. And we're like, the more you mouth breathe, kids' teeth get all out of whack. And my daughter has really bad teeth because she mouth breathes. And so it was like, to get my free guide on how to stop your kid from mouth breathing, just comment the word mouth breathe. And I was like, yes. Like, I'm like, yes. Because now I know I don't have to talk to anybody. I know it's automated. I know it's going to send me something. It's probably going to try to sell me on something. I don't care. Maybe I want to buy it. Like, I don't want my daughter to have bad teeth. And so I love seeing that kind of stuff. Like, so it's like, I don't know. I'm a big fan.
Well, then it's like, if you don't ask, then you won't receive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you recycle like the same thing over and over again when it says like DM me Lind or DM me this? Or are you creating new content for them all the time when they DM you something?
It depends on what I'm doing. So there's some weeks where we're doing like a masterclass or we have a webinar coming up or something, a live event. Then we'll change up the ManyChat to pertain to whatever we're doing.
Gotcha. Cool.
That's legit.
And how have you used Instagram to get rich? Honestly, I guess that's the whole point of the show. How have you used that? Because you have done a really great job at that. How have you used that? What are some of the income streams that you've gotten from Instagram?
So mainly, it's not necessarily from the platform itself. It's mainly through the partnerships and connections that I've made on there and the money I've been able to raise. So to date, from 2019 till now, I've raised $7 million off of Instagram. Yeah. And that was like over the past couple years, it really escalated. But in the beginning, it wasn't that big. So that has been huge in me being able to add value to other people, because I'm always thinking, okay, why would people partner with me, right? I don't have well, I've been a civil engineer, but that's not what I utilize now. I don't have a construction background. I'm physically away from a lot of the people that I partner with. So money is always an issue that people have raising.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm able to utilize the platform to then raise the money.
So you'll raise the money and then you'll use that money to invest in somebody else's deal and get
or partner with them.
Or partner, with them on a deal. Okay.
So prior to this past year, what I was doing was just a JV. So we bought some RV parks, an office building, just me and one other person, or me and a couple other people. And then more recently, since I was looking more into the commercial space, another set of individuals approached me and was like, okay, since you can raise money, you should get into commercial real estate. We're going to start this fund and you can be a part of it. So then I kind of diverted from raising so much private money to then having to meet accredited investors and going that whole route of starting a fund. So it's been a little bit different because my same avatar for the fund is not necessarily on Instagram. So I actually started leveraging LinkedIn more recently to find accredited investors.
I think
And
that's brilliant.
just applying what I do already on Instagram, but applying it to LinkedIn because they just released a video feature too.
Really?
Yeah, we just got into that as well. I hired a part-time guy who's been awesome, and he's just running my LinkedIn. And he just takes content that I produce other places, and then he's like, now I'm going to not twist it, that's the wrong word, but like make it fit what people like on, like there's
LinkedIn.
styles on each one, right? Each platform has a style and a way you write and a way you talk to people and communicate. And like, yeah, I think I've seen 10x increase on my LinkedIn
Really?
traffic. Yeah. And like that traffic is so high level.
It is.
Yeah.
It's people who are actually CEOs,
Yep.
working lawyers, doctors,
Yeah.
whoever. But it's more concentrated on that platform. So I never knew prior to starting the fund that LinkedIn was even a thing. I thought you go on there to look for jobs, but people actually go on there to find out news, to be social with other people, and it's other high income earners.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Some people just, that's their, like, some people's Instagram is LinkedIn.
Right.
And it's weird to me because like Instagram is my Instagram and TikTok's my Instagram, but some people LinkedIn is, and those people usually have money.
So here's a question for you, and really just because it's happening with me, because my social media has grown a little bit over the last year and a half or so.
Look at you, stud.
I'm so cool, guys. I'm so cool. I've got 10,000 followers now. Yeah, so
double digits.
Yes, double digits. It was a big party. But I have people all the time that reach out and ask me to partner on a deal. They're like, hey, if you can just coach me through this deal, I'll give you. How do you, when you were doing that, how did you determine like this is somebody that I would partner with? Because like you said, I'm in Hawaii and I can't go visit the property, or don't want to go visit the property and hop on a plane. Like, how do you trust somebody that you meet on Instagram across the country that you're maybe never going to meet in real life?
Well, most of the time, they either have to be a part of a circle or some kind of like maybe mentorship that I'm in. So I've met some people that were in like a Pace Morby's program or Heather Blankenship's RV park program. So I help in a lot of those types of mentorships. And even Ryan's, I'm still a coach in there. So I help coach other people. But if I know they've already invested in themselves, then the next thing is like, okay, what's their experience? And then dive into that. Have you ever bought real estate before? If you have, like, what genre is it in? Or do you have experience in this specific deal, or what stands out to you? And then because I'm not there, I have them kind of do the due diligence and then give that to me. And then I reach out to my network of people in that area and say, hey, I'm looking at this property. Is this true? Are these numbers, inflated, or is there anything else I should be concerned about? But I think that all comes down to building your network from the start. So you have people to reach out to confirm all these other numbers. And then of course it's multiple Zoom calls and just getting to know their background, asking about their family. Like, what do they value? What have they done in the past where they went through a struggle, and how did they come out of it? So it's more about them than it is about the deal necessarily.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the people I partner with are similar to me in the fact that they value their families. They have kids. They maybe have, a portfolio of their own. They're looking to grow and scale through these bigger projects. So one of the ones that we did recently that just launched in October was a 50 pad RV park and glamping site in Brunson, Missouri. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that, but it's more upscale. So it's like a short-term RV park. There's stargazer tents. The lady who reached out to me through Instagram, I just asked in my stories, like, hey, is anybody doing anything cool or working on anything cool and need help? And so she was like, yeah, the same thing. It's like, I want to buy this property, but it's 1.18 million. And I have 10 other short-term rentals in this area. I know it would do good if we were to fix it up and turn it into this experience. So now there's like a restaurant on it. There's a pool. There's a pickleball court. Like, she just had this imagination that I could tell right off the bat. And then her husband is also a 49ers fan. So that was
we interviewed him on Cash Flow Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I did not put that together, but you're right.
Oh, yeah.
I
was awesome.
Yeah,
I do remember now. Yeah. That's awesome.
They're an awesome couple.
They seemed like it. Yeah. They seemed like it. And that is going to crush it. Yeah. That is going to crush it. Just Branson is, people in Missouri love Branson. Right. So that was where we would go all the time.
Is it?
Yeah. Been. Oh, dude, you need to go to Branson.
What's good about Branson?
So Branson has some of the best golf courses in the world. Really? And I'm not, that Tiger Woods just opened up his course there.
Really?
Jack Nicklaus is like par 3. There's a place called Top of the Rock. It really is the best, probably the best public like golf destination in the United States.
Really?
The top 3, I would say. Yeah, to go there and golf. You got Table Rock Lake, which is beautiful, huge lake. You can wake surf, ski, boat. You have Silver Dollar City. You have Branson. It's like it's the Christian Vegas is what you'd
right.
call it. Yeah, it really is. It's like you've got all of these shows, but a lot of them are way more family friendly. It's cool. Branson's great.
It is.
I love Branson.
So I went for the first time. So I met them, that happened on Instagram in 2022. And she's like, oh, we need someone to sign. We can't get the loan. We need someone to sign on the loan. So there were kind of hurdles that they ran through that they're like, okay, yeah, we need someone else to bring someone else in. And we'd love to have you as a partner. And so they had never partnered before. And so I was kind of walking them through that experience as well. And I met Heather the first time at the other Heather Blankenship's event. So I went to go speak at an event in Florida. And then my partner was there. And that's the first time we ever met in person. And then she's like, hey, on your way back to Maui, do you want to stop by Brunson? Like, okay, let me change my flight real quick. So I went, met her and her husband, like stayed at their house. I was like, oh my gosh, we never met before. We're doing this multi-million-dollar project and just everything aligned. So I think you never really know what a good or bad partner is going to be. But I think you can try your best just to check what kind of person they are.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm actually a big believer in stay at someone's house if you're going to partner with them. I did that with Ryan Murdoch. I flew out to before I bought the very first deal with him. I stayed at his house.
Yeah, I don't believe that though, or maybe I do, because I used to always hear like, walk out to your tenant's car, like as you're like if you meet with them and stuff. And if you looked inside of my car right now, you would never talk to me again. It's disgusting.
I just think if you can stay at their house and they don't murder you, maybe that's a good sign that you're going to be a good partner.
Yes.
And then see how they live. Yeah. And if they live like you, then don't partner.
Exactly.
With
Nobody would want to invest with me if they saw the inside of my car.
That's funny.
It's got about 30 protein shakers with old protein in them and gym clothes and beach clothes and
my car is not much better. It's pretty rough.
So,
all right, what is the market has changed a lot over the last few years. What is working? Do you see working in real estate right now?
I feel like a lot of people, well, not necessarily for myself, but I see a lot of people moving into the wholesaling space.
Okay.
And that's working for a lot of people. For me, I'm just moving into more because we have a debt and equity fund, just funding more debt deals.
Okay.
So for those who are taking on these fix and flips, we're able to lend them the funds for that. And then I guess if you're talking the real estate space, because it still is difficult with the interest rates to make, the rentals work. But I think wholesaling is probably going to be the number one way to go to be safe.
For those who have never heard of wholesaling before, can you explain that? What is wholesaling? I know most people know it, but you never know.
I think you can explain it.
I can, but it's locking up properties at a great price and assigning it to somebody else for a profit. So we did one this week that we bought for $47,000 and we wholesaled it for $62,000.
And then the person that bought it is probably going to flip it? Or?
Yeah, the person that bought it is going to flip it. So it's probably worth 180 and it probably needs 60-ish. And so they're going to put 60, 65 into it. They won't make a huge spread on this. But after holding costs, realtor fees, they should probably make $23,000 to $27,000 on it.
And so you decided it wasn't worth you guys doing it because the margins weren't good enough. So you decided to wholesale it.
Yes, but also on this specific one, the area, it was not an area that we love. And I knew that we could have made more money. We probably could have made 35 to 40 flipping it. But it was going to take us 3 or 4 months in an area that we don't love. Yeah. And so we would have rather just taken the $15K or so, I think is what we made, by just assigning it and moving on to the next one and flip in areas that we love and we know a lot better than this area.
Yeah.
So, I love wholesaling. I always want to, and I say this every time we talk about wholesaling, I'm beating a dead horse, but you have to do it ethically. So like on that one, the person I bought it from, I told them, hey, no matter what, I'm going to buy this at 47. So they knew that. But I said, I also have some investors that I think would want this. Do you care if I bring them through the house and see it? And so we did it. There's not a contingency on the contract. And I think that wholesaling just has such an opportunity to be shady.
Yeah.
And I see it so much. And so every time we talk about it, I always want to just say, like, don't be a shady wholesaler.
Yeah. There's a lot of it.
Yeah. But there is a lot. You can make a lot of money in it.
Right.
And so.
Well, and that's why I say other people do it, but I don't necessarily, that's not my route. But I would suggest for anybody starting out who has, low funds and maybe just kind of wants to get in the real estate space, one, educate yourself, right? Do it ethically. But then two, get into something where you don't actually have to buy the real estate.
Yeah.
For a beginner investor,
Mhm.
like wholesaling is such an incredible way to learn the market,
Mhm.
but then also make a really quick 30, 40, 50, 60 grand where, I mean, that takes you to make 60 grand. It takes you 3 to 5 deals. Like you could do that by just going to every local meetup, going literally like even just go door knocking. Like
Mhm.
that's something that we don't do in our business because of the time. I don't think
Yeah.
that the trade-off is there. But if you're a beginner and you have time and you don't have any funds, like go knock on doors and say, hey, do you want to sell your house? Or do you know anybody that wants to
Mhm.
sell their house? Like there's writing handwritten cards. Like there's just so many ways to find deals out there. And then you get one of those and you wholesale it for a 10, 15K assignment, and that can change your life. So,
All right. So what advice do you have? You live in Hawaii, a very expensive market. A lot of people listening to this call or, this show are living in California or any of the coastal markets where it's just expensive.
Mhm.
What advice do you have for people who live in an expensive market and want to get into real estate?
I would say just connect with other people who are doing it and
Mm.
figure out how they're making it work in this market.
Yeah.
Because
There's a way to do it.
Mhm.
Like, how do people do it on Maui, right? Some people flip houses.
Right.
Some people do the ADU game, like adding separate units.
Mhm.
Like there's ways to do it that may not work in Missouri,
Right.
but that work here. And there's things that work in
Yeah.
Missouri that don't work here. And so
but we
that's great
interviewed
advice.
he's in Brooklyn and he makes $1 million every flip that he does.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
he does one a year. But still, like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's
Mhm.
as much as I make on him.
Yeah, he's like,
100 flips.
he's
So,
not going to do a deal unless he can make $1 million
Yeah.
on it.
Right.
Just
And-
different way of doing business.
yeah. So it's, hey, you underrate your deals way differently, and you're looking for that one deal that
Yeah.
is probably going to take all of your time, all of your money, all of your effort, but you're going to make 10 times, way more than 10 times. You're going to make 60 times what I make on a flip in one flip.
Yeah.
So,
Can we talk a little bit about your lending, like that you're doing? You said debt fund and equity fund. Like, what is that like? I mean, you're raising capital then, and
Right.
then flippers come to you and say, "Hey, I'm trying to flip this house," and you can then finance them.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah.
typically, because the rest of my partners are in Utah, we mainly lend in those areas and then
Okay.
also in Texas.
mm,
We are going to start lending in Hawaii, but the only thing is that I think within any deal, even if you're not running a fund or in the commercial space, you still have to think about it. Okay, what if I have to take over this property?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
who do I have around to actually manage the project or get it to the finish line if the active investor can't? So
Yeah.
we haven't started there yet, just because I'm also mindful of my time and where I
Yeah.
want to spend it.
Have you
Yeah.
guys had to take properties over yet?
No,
Would you guys have to take a property
I don't think
over,
we'd
or
have
is
to.
it-
I
okay.
think that's what our partner would do.
Really?
So, like my company, like Better Life Ref, we
Mhm.
basically, for lack of a better term, white label. There's another company that does a lot of loans, but they
Mhm.
don't want to be the outward facing. They only want to service them.
Right.
So they're the ones with the connections. They're the ones the legal side. My job is to bring in like people who need a hard money loan, and then they service it. So
Yeah.
they have the legal liability mostly on them. They have the
Oh,
if they
okay.
take it back a property, it's they're taking it back, not me.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And I make less money for that. Like I
Yeah.
got to split it with them. And so, yeah, really, it's like I'm a fancy marketing machine. That's
Mhm.
primarily what
Yeah.
I am.
When I think because we're a smaller fund, we're
Mhm.
just like individuals, and then we only lend on flips in specific areas. We're not trying to do
Yeah.
it to the masses.
Yeah.
It's run a little bit different too.
This is, you don't have to answer this. I don't know if it's, but like, what are you arbitraging that money at? Like, because isn't that the game with if you're raising private capital for a fund?
Like you pay your investors something and then you
Yeah.
charge a certain other amount.
Yeah, one of my lenders, he doesn't have a fund, but he borrows, got a bunch of family members that are rich, and he borrows from them at 7% and then lends to me at 12%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that for you. Basically, you just pay out your investors some amount and then you guys just.
No, so we make money on the fees charged.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the interest goes to your
Mhm.
investors basically, and then the fees go to you.
Yeah.
That's smart, actually. I like
Yeah.
that quite a bit. Very cool. All right. Moving on. How long did it take you to become a millionaire from the time you started to the time you crossed the $1 million net worth?
3 years.
That's
Amazing.
wild.
Congrats. That's
That's
incredible.
Thank you.
Can somebody still do that today?
I would say it would be a little bit more difficult just because the market is a lot higher than it was
Yeah.
when I first started. So in 2019 was when I did my first flip. And even though 2020 happened, there was great opportunity there as well. When everybody was scared and not buying, that's when I found I was able to raise most of my private money, because none of the flippers that were in my network were like, oh, we're waiting until to see this out. I'm like, man, I have really good deals. I want to buy them, but would you lend your money then in the
Yeah.
meantime? And they're like, oh, yeah, like how does that work? So you'd be surprised on how many even like active investors don't really realize the value of lending just to diversify into
Hmm.
even other people's projects. I mean, most of fix and flippers are robbing Peter to pay Paul. So they're
Yes.
just trying to get to the next
Yeah.
project. But there are, the ones that I was talking with are the next generation above me. So they're kind of a little bit more careful on the deals that they do take and of the timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift a little bit, maybe away from real estate and talk a little more about personal stuff, being that this is the Better Life podcast. So, family life. I mean, family. How many kids do you have then? Two kids. And you
Mhm.
mentioned one has autism.
Mhm.
What is that, if you don't mind me like, I don't
Yeah.
prying, but like, what has that been like? Like, what are the challenges with raising an autistic kid? What's been the joys of that? What's been the struggles of that?
I think number one is just being okay with your child being different. I
Mm.
think that took us a little bit because we knew from when he was young, which we're very fortunate that we caught it early on. So, when you take your kid to I haven't had young kids in a while, but I remember it was just like 12 months and 18
Yep.
months. Everything is
Oh.
months versus years.
Yep.
So there was one of those, maybe it was 18 months that it was like you go to the doctor and it's like all nose and you're like, wait a minute. Okay,
Mm.
something's going on. And so from there, that's where he had to do some testing. And then like, oh, we think he may have autism, but we're not really sure. You can go through this behavioral therapy and see what they say and talk to different doctors. So right away, we were speaking to them and they're like, does he do repetitive behaviors? I'm like, oh yeah, but he's just active,
Yeah.
So you kind of, in your head too, you kind of, I wouldn't say make excuses, but
Mhm.
you justify, oh, no, but he's just a regular kid. And he is, but he just is, different. So after that, we started getting him therapy. So we would take him to Bayada, which is the healthcare center, where they would help him with some of those behaviors. So it was more so not to help him like on an intellectual level, but to be more social with other kids or for us to be able to just go to a grocery store and him just like, align with, okay, we hold on to the cart and then we don't run off or a lot of things we always interpreted it as a regular kid. But once he started in preschool, that's when we really noticed like, oh, he's
Mhm.
different than everybody else. And it was, we feel very, fortunate that we put him in Imua preschool here, which they integrate typical developing kids with autism.
Oh.
So then they get to like see, others and help lift them up as well. But we have been huge proponents of making sure that even in the regular public school system, he's always been in a regular classroom.
Mhm.
So right now he's in a regular classroom with an aide, and that just helps him know, okay, this is the norm instead of being segregated out.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
because doesn't have any physical disabilities. It's more just he is in fourth grade and he is reading at like a first grade level or doing
Mm.
math at a first grade level.
I
So
see.
just a delay developmentally, but
Yeah.
also socially.
Okay. Yeah. So as somebody who's a busy mom
Mhm.
with two kids, husband, real estate investor, social media star, how do you balance all that? Like what does your like work-life balance look like and how do you maintain that?
I love to work. So I feel like if anything, I have to stop myself and put parameters on how much I work. Because even if I get an idea or start brainstorming, I'll stay up all night and I won't sleep. And for me, though, I think the biggest push for me to take a step back was one day when my husband said, they're getting the best of you and we're getting the rest of you.
Mm.
And that really hit me like, oh my God, I'm not being there with my family. And that's how my mom was. But she had to be. She was a single mom with 3 kids and I'm choosing to be.
Mm.
So I think that was the biggest kind of pivot that I made in my life. So more recently, the one thing that I started doing that is like non-negotiable unless have an appointment is I've been walking my son home from school from his A+ program every day.
Oh, that's cool.
So not only do I get to just take a mental break, and we live close enough where I can walk there and back, but also just seeing his growth and just him in nature. When we're walking back, we'll stop at the playground sometimes, or we'll just be talking about things, and we get that one-on-one time before we get home with everybody else. Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. And where do you see yourself headed in the future? Like what's long-term vision for you and your real estate and your wealth and life?
I want to take more cruises.
Oh,
so I want to be one of those old people on the cruise all the time.
I love it.
I love cruises today. So there's just a new ship. It was called Icon of the Seas that just launched.
Yeah, I know. I want to do that too. Yeah.
But they've got this, it's like $45,000 a week, but they have this like 2-story, like kids dream.
Can we share it?
Yeah. And it's got a slide on it.
Yeah.
But what if you and I go and we leave our
family at home?
Kids can't come. We get the room with the slide that goes down the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude, I love cruises. I eat like garbage and I gain so much weight and I have to spend a year working it off, but I don't care. It's
people have like, I've seen like on TikTok and Twitter, people like rip apart cruises.
Yeah.
It's the best thing ever. Everything's close. There's food, all you can eat, all you can drink. There's
what you need.
Pool. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
And then you get to go to cool places.
Yeah, so this past summer, we went to Europe. We went on a European cruise for 2 weeks.
I'd love to do that.
And we went to Spain, Italy, France, Greece, Malta, like so many different places.
Goodness.
We didn't have to worry about different hotel rooms, driving, food. Like you get off and you can eat there, but then it's like your room is right there.
Oh, dude, I'm going to do that next summer. We're going to do an Alaska cruise. Maybe I'll do a European.
I want to do an Alaska. I've heard that those are incredible.
I've been on an Alaska one too.
Let's get a nanny and bring her with, and then they can watch the kids, and you and I can hang out. Done.
No, I'm not
Josh,
even
you want to
kidding.
come too? We're going to go to Alaska next summer.
Alaska and cruise.
I don't know if I want to go back.
I've heard that they're so beautiful.
I've heard they're beautiful,
Have you done one, an Alaskan cruise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we used to do, my family wasn't super wealthy growing up, but there's a website, it's called like lastminutecruises.com, and you could get like dirt cheap cruises last minute. And so that was a lot of times our family vacation, which we would go to Port Canaveral or Cape Canaveral and then hit the Bahamas or like Honduras, Belize. Oh, they're so much fun. I love cruises. Some of the best times of my life on cruises.
Yeah.
I just like you get to travel to so many different places and not have to worry about the accommodations and coordinating all of that.
My parents are cruise people. They've been on like 30 of them the last couple of years.
They
just
asked
keep
my parents
going.
to go on a cruise. I told you that. Yeah.
No, that's fun.
When they came out, this was like a year ago, and
That's
my parents were out here at the same time. They became friends, and then they called my parents and were like, "Do you guys want to go on a cruise with us?"
That's so
I don't
funny.
think my parents could, but so you want to be though, like when like have you seen the people that just live on a cruise ship?
Yeah,
and apparently it's cheaper than to actually live. Yeah, exactly. They'll just live on a cruise ship.
That is wild, but it's also, I see a world in the future where, just so many old people. Like, what do we do with all the old people in America and the world? We're just going to put them on a cruise ship and let them sail around.
They do have like a 365-day cruise ship. They have a 2-year one. Yeah. I'm telling you.
All right. I love it. I'm going to do a cruise. I'm excited. All right. Let's talk to the next section of the show. Let's move there. 3, 2, 1, pivot. The idea of a pivot being your life's going one direction and something changes it in a more positive way. So we'll go 3 books, 2 people, and 1 quote. So we'll start with the books. What are 3 books that have changed the direction of your life?
Number 1, Atomic Habits.
Oh, so good.
I think because it just got me in the mindset and the mind frame of life isn't happening to me. It's because I'm not planning it out. Like I have more control if I just stick to my habits. And then with that alongside was Miracle Morning. So that just got me in a routine of waking up early because I always felt like, I don't have enough time and everything. I get up and everything's just happening. And so especially with kids and a family, you know, just having those few extra hours a morning will help me tremendously. And to this day, this morning I woke up at 4:30. Usually I try to work out right away, but sometimes I get caught up in work, check emails and things like that. But just the silence of a house early morning, I don't know how
I need to reread that. I'm knocked off track right now. Yeah.
Dude,
all right. That was 2.
I just changed because I work St. Louis hours. So I'm starting at about 5 a.m. every morning.
Right.
And for the last 6 months, I've just felt like something's off. And so it was just as crazy. I don't know if I can do this forever, but I've been waking up at 3:50 every morning. Because with the 5 o'clock meetings, I would roll out of my bed at 4:50 and then I'd go straight into the workday. And I didn't just have time to like think and sit and not do anything and drink a cup of coffee and like go through like my Miracle the Savers routine or pray. And so I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, and there's just such a difference in my personality and the way that I interact with people and the way that I feel about the day because I get my morning back, even though it has to be at 3:50, unfortunately. But
you do
that's miserable.
Go to sleep a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So.
But the thing is that cuts out, like for me at least, I go to sleep earlier, but the time that I'm missing by going to sleep earlier is the most unproductive time of my day. It's when I'm watching Netflix or something.
exactly.
So it's like I put the kids down, and instead of watching Netflix, I go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's great. So
Yeah, we had Hal out in episode 14 of the Better Life podcast. If you want to go listen to Hal, who wrote The Miracle Morning, episode 14. All right, book number 3.
Millionaire Next Door.
Oh, yeah.
I think that book just taught me that it is okay to be who you are, make money, but also just staying true to yourself. I think a lot of times people get caught up in, oh, if I make more money, I have to, level up in a sense. But after reading that book, I'm like, oh, I could just be who I am. Of course, we're always getting better as we learn and grow. But at the same time, like, I still want to be me.
Yeah. It's awesome. Who are 2 people that have changed the direction of your life?
Number 1, Ryan Pineda. I'd like 100 props to him because he just showed me that it was possible. And the way that he coaches is like no BS. So, and I don't know if it's because there was only 8 of us at that time, but he held us accountable. So if it's like, hey, you had to make 10 calls this week, did you do it? I'm like, no. It's like, do you really want this? Why did you pay for this program if you're not going to do this? I'm like, okay. Like, do you really want it? I'm like, yes. So I like that style of coaching. And then second, I mean, my husband, he is a go-getter, a dreamer. He doesn't take no shit from anybody. And he really pushed me to see what I didn't see in myself. So I commend him for not only just being okay with the way our life has been, but also just the support and just believing in the end that everything's going to work out. Because I never would have quit my job if it wasn't for him. I wouldn't have gone so far and been out there as much as I have been if he wasn't there to support me.
And what about a quote? One quote that's changed your life a little bit.
I like build wealth while making a positive impact.
Is that your mission?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my mission goal.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I try to live by that every single day and just making sure that not only with the money that we make, we're also, just like this podcast, making a difference in the world the way we know how.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Awesome. So we're going to move into the next segment, past, present, future. And let's look at 20-year-old Zasha. If you could go back and talk with her, give her advice, what would that advice be?
Don't get pregnant. Because I was pregnant at 20. So that was one of the reasons why I had to grow up very quickly. But another one would just be to go for it. I mean, I think because I did have a child that young, I finished college. I would have moved home and just lived the life that I knew before and partied and everything. But because I had to take care of a young child, it went the opposite direction. So not much I can tell her now. Stay strong. Stay strong.
Yeah. You got this. All right, what about in the present here? What is something you've done recently in the last year that's given you just a better life? It could be a habit, routine, action, purchase.
I would say more recently, I started coaching my own people in Hawaii to learn creative ways to purchase their own home. I mean, of course, the intention would be for them to start investing. But I think a lot of the strategies we do as real estate investors, like people who are struggling paycheck to paycheck, just want to get a house for themselves and their families, they should be learning these other creative ways so they don't give up and get priced out of paradise, like we call it here, but get priced into paradise, knowing what grants there are, knowing about seller financing. And there's, even in an expensive market like this, I've seen homes that are listed that are owner financed. I'm like, you guys could do this. Like pair up with your family members, find a way to do it, just educating them to think creatively, even though it's not maybe ideal to live with your parents or rent out rooms in your primary home.
Awesome. It works though.
Yeah.
I still do it myself. So whatever. I like it.
Let's look future. Like, what would you say? What would you want your kids to say about you when you're gone? Like, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I would say that my mom was present when she was around. I want them to remember me as the fun mom because the dads mostly get that.
Yeah.
But also, I think with me having a grown daughter already, she's already kind of one foot out the door. But this just believing that she can do anything, like I would tell my younger self, because she's in that same stage. But for my son, I'd want him to just know that I've always loved him, and no matter what he struggled with, that he's okay.
Yeah.
Like everything's going to be okay. I think that more so. Just having a stable ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question I meant to ask you earlier, but I'll throw it in here, even though it's not part of this segment. What advice do you have for women who want to get into real estate investing and just feel like it's a man's game?
I think you should use it to your advantage, because for me, I think it's opened a lot of doors as far as people being a little bit more vulnerable, or being able to reach out to me and be like, hey, I have this money and I just don't know who to talk to. Or, I have this project and I don't know, I'm not sure about it, but if you could take a look at it. So I think because my presence on social media is very genuine to who I am and true to who I am. But two, you bring that softer side to deals. And it's not just about the money, or it's not just this cutthroat game, right, anymore. When you're a woman, you can reach out to people in that light and they'll take it, a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I think just use it to your advantage.
And then before we get out here, I want to end with a quick story before I ask you the final couple. But I mentioned in the beginning about stealing a deal.
I didn't hear about this.
I just like this story because it illustrates just how not good I am at real estate. But no, there's this house. My wife's, like, one of her closest friends here on Maui. We go to her house all the time. Jess, Jess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we go to their house all the time for random things. And there was this nasty looking house next door. And every time I went by, I'm like, I'm going to call him. I'm going to call that. That's a perfect driving for dollars. I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him for like a year. And then I'm going to just knock on the door. I'm going to do something. And then one day the house sells. And I was like, dang it, I missed out. And then look who bought it. But Zasha. Yeah.
Awesome.
And what I love about that story is it just shows, like, it doesn't matter what your intentions are and what you know. Like, I know how to door knock. I know how to talk to a seller. I know how to do all the work and send the letter and do the phone. I know how to do all of it. I didn't do it. You did. And so you got the reward there. So what's your side of that story? I mean, is there any, I don't know. You didn't even know I was looking at it. It just makes me feel like bad knowing that I'm just not good at this. And you were.
Yeah.
How do you take action like that? Like, where's that come from?
Well, I think it was we're driving for dollars.
Yep.
And then me and one of my other partners at the time, she noticed the house. There was, broken down cars. It was obviously a drug house. It was very obvious from that standpoint. But we did door knocking. So we left letters. He finally reached back out and he wanted to move. He's like, I just don't know what to do. But his house was a complete mess and he had inherited it. And I more so felt sad for the mom, because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I left my kids the house. But anyway, he was just like, we negotiated. We got it down to $375 at that time. And then he did have a $50,000 tax lien against it. So that was before I even knew about tax liens or anything. It was just driving for dollars. And we ended up purchasing it from him. And then I ended up keeping it as a rental. But that house, I borrowed, it took about like $200,000. So we raised private money from another investor on Maui local. And he was actually like, man, I hope you don't pay me back, because then I get that deal. Kind of same like you, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, and he just lent and got interest. He got 8%, which is good. That was in 2020 or 2021. And I own that house to this day. And it brings in, so we added 2 tiny homes to the house.
I've seen that,
Yeah,
it's
to
legit.
the property.
Yeah, what was that like? Just add some ADUs or tiny homes? Like, what was that process like?
So for here, because they are on trailers, it's considered a motor vehicle.
Okay.
And then you don't connect the sewer and water. You have sewer and water tanks that can be underground, but you'll have to fill them. So we got those up in just a few, I want to say like a couple months.
Yeah.
It took 4 weeks to get them in, and then another 4 weeks to get the trailers in and then up and folded out. But yeah.
What do they rent for?
$2,600 each.
That's amazing.
$2,600 each.
And the main house rents for almost like $8,000.
What does that cash flow for you?
A lot.
My mortgage was back in 2021, so I did the BRRRR strategy. I think it's about $2,500, and then taxes, insurance, and all that. Yeah,
that's insane.
Beautiful.
Congratulations, that's amazing. That right there is a life-changing deal.
I know. Yeah,
Like
Like you don't need many of those
Yeah.
to quit your job and be rich. And
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Right.
You're an idiot, dude.
I know, man.
Well, and he
Just rub it
only
in.
knew because what I usually do with any property I buy, I'll go around to the neighbors. I'll
Yeah.
say, hey, if there's contractors bothering you or like the parking, let me know. I'm very considerate. So I gave her my card.
Yeah.
And then that's when she
Yeah,
called
she's
him.
like, do you know a Zasha Smith? I'm like, yes, I do. Why? Yeah. Anyway, it's just a good reminder. Like, yeah, take action.
Mhm.
Like you took action. You got a great deal. I didn't. So,
Yeah.
all right. Final wrap up questions. First of all, what are you excited about in your life coming up right now? What's going on, either business, personal, whatever? What are you looking forward to?
Really excited for 32 lots that we bought on the Big Island in
Oh,
Hawaii. We're going to build affordable homes on it. We're working with a nonprofit. We actually have a call tomorrow with them to kind of solidify some of the loan terms. And we want to use that as kind of a pilot project for trying to do that here. So my passion has always been affordable housing, Section 8, low income, because that's where I came from.
Yeah.
So any chance that I get, even my renters now, I asked 4 of them recently, hey, can you see if you can turn your HUD rental voucher into a purchase voucher? Because I just found out that you can do that through HUD, where
Really?
they can purchase the home using their voucher.
Interesting. I did not know that existed.
Right. Yeah.
I gotta look that up. That's cool.
So they contacted the office, and unfortunately, like there's other qualifications, but just to be able to give those people an opportunity like that to own a home, what they never thought was possible, I think that is more so what I'm excited about and
that's cool.
passionate about. Mhm.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, most people already follow you, but where can people find you at?
At Invest with Zasha on Instagram mainly,
Mhm.
LinkedIn, I've been trying to do YouTube,
Have you?
but
Me too.
it is a lot
it's
of
hard.
Me
It's a
too.
lot of work.
Well,
Insta-
podcast makes it a little bit easier,
Yeah,
but just straight talking to the video. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, if you ever
Awesome.
need a studio, we have a
Right.
studio
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Come on and record. All right.
Zero.
Zasha, amazing. Thank you so much. You're an inspiration, and it's just always good to talk with you. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Fist bump.
And that, my friends, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode or if you just enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read the comments. We make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people, and the more reviews we get, the more people hear it and watch the show and share it, and it's awesome. Last but not least, please head over to social media. Consider befriending me, following me, subscribing to all that stuff at Better Life and my personal page at Beardy Brandon, especially over on Instagram, YouTube, and really everywhere else. So thank you again for listening. I'm honored that you would bring me along on your journey toward building wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul. Now, this show is about living a better life, but if you want my opinion on what it takes to live the best life ever, just go to abetterlife.com/best life to hear some of my views on life and spirituality. I think you'll like it. abetterlife.com/best life. With that said, thanks for listening to the show. We'll see you next week.